Thanks, Rich. Amen. It is great to be here this evening. My name is Cesca. If I haven't met you yet, I live in North Devon and I work at a Christian outdoor centre. So this is a nice difference from the day to day. A couple of days ago, I was in a canoe with 3 Year 5 children, and I very nearly got capsized by said 10-year-olds in my canoe, and I would not have been best pleased in the -2 conditions to be going into the cold water, but we saved it. It's okay. We stayed upright, which is great. So that's what I'm normally doing, but I'm very excited to be here and bringing you this evening's message. I'm going to start with a little question I want you to ponder in your mind. What's in a name? What's in a name? What is important about a name for you? Does it tell you about someone? Does it give you something that you can call someone because of what they're like or how you know them? Have you given it to yourself? Someone else given it to you? Sometimes there's a lot in the meaning of a name. My name, are you ready? Francesca, full name, means French or free man. Now, I am neither French nor a man, so I'm not sure what my name says about me. But to give my parents credit, my middle name is Joy, and they always focus on the free part, like God's free spirit and joy. So I quite like it. It's okay. That's how it works out. So we're chatting about names. We're talking about some of the names of God tonight. I have really been loving recently looking into the different things that people call God, the names that God gives himself and that other people in the Bible give to him. And I thought it'd be really cool to start with a statistic of how many names of God there are in the Bible. And I resorted to Google, as everyone does. But the first website I came to told me that if I Googled the question, how many names of God are there in the Bible, I would get responses from anywhere between 7 and 100, and that the difference in number would probably cause confusion. So whilst I'm sure there are lots of theologians who have figured it out and done lots on it, I went with the fact that there's just lots of names for God, and that's probably because there's a lot to say about who God is. And that's what's so great about names and finding out about them. It's because it tells us a bit about who God is. Perhaps one of the most famous names for God is one that he gives himself. He introduces himself as this name to Moses, and it is Yahweh, which means I am who I am. Okay, helpful. I am who I am. Imagine if someone you were meeting, you're like, oh, who are you? And they say, oh, I am who I am. Okay, a bit weird. It doesn't really tell me much about you. What am I supposed to call you? Am I supposed to call you I am? Or am I supposed to call you who you are? I don't know. So a bit of a weird one. Yahweh, I am who I am. One of the ways that can be translated from Hebrew is whatever I am, I will be. So whatever God is like, he will be forever. Whatever God is like, he is that way consistently all the time, which is really good news because a lot of the stuff that we hear about God is pretty great. So God is constant and unchanging. So God is who he is all the time. And one of the names that I particularly love that talks about something that God is like is Jehovah-nissi. So that is the name that we are talking about tonight, Jehovah-nissi, and it means the Lord is my banner. And it comes from the book of Exodus, and a little bit of, we're going to read where we hear the name first in a second, but just a little bit of backstory about where we find this name. So this man called Moses is sent to Egypt to free God's people, Israel. And he goes to the Pharaoh and he says, let my people go. Pharaoh says no. So God sends a whole bunch of plagues. And then eventually Pharaoh lets the people go and they're leaving, but in a drastic turn of events, he changes his mind and they chase after them. But it's okay. If you don't know the end of the story, they get away because with the help of God, Moses parts the Red Sea and they get through, but the Egyptians don't. So then Israel, they go into the desert. God provides them with food and drink, and he proves just how faithful he is to them. He's been with them all of this time. And now where we meet them, they have been traveling around different places where God has been commanding them to go. And they are currently camped in a place called Rephidim. I think that's how we say it. That's how we're saying it tonight. And a people group called the Amalekites have come to attack them. So that's where we are. We're in Exodus chapter 17, and we're going to be reading 8 to 16. The Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites at Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, "Choose some of our men and go out to fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with a staff of God in my hand." So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered, and Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning, but whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. When Moses' hands grew tired, they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held his hands up, one on one side and one on the other, so that his hands remained steady until sunset. So Joshua overcame the Amalekites' army with the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Write this on a scroll as something to be remembered, and make sure that Joshua hears it, because I will completely blot out the name of Amalek from under heaven." Moses built an altar and called it, "The Lord is my banner." He said, "Because hands were lifted up against the throne of the Lord, and the Lord will be at war against the Amalekites from generation to generation." So, there's our name in its context. The Lord is my banner. So Moses calls God his banner for a few reasons. Now, the word banner is used here, but you could also say flag. So if you're imagining like a big banner, we've got a movement sometimes have big banners on the side saying different things. So there's big banners, but you can also picture a flag. And the word, when I picture a flag, I often picture perhaps a flag of a nation. You might picture the Union Jack, which makes you think of a few things. It makes you think of Great Britain. It represents that. You might think of the royal family or a good cup of tea, or of course queuing, because apparently we're so great at queuing. So a flag represents something. It symbolizes something. And normally when you see a flag, it's recognizable. If you see the England flag, you might think of our rugby team. We might not want to dwell on our rugby team much after yesterday, so we'll move swiftly on from that. But a flag represents something. And in biblical times, these banners and flags were used for a similar thing. They were used to identify different tribes and families in Israel. So in Numbers chapter 2, we hear about what God is telling Moses to do and how they should live. And it says, "The Israelites are to camp around the tent of meeting some distance from it, each of them under their standard and holding the banners of their family." So each tribe or family would have a banner or a flag that they would put outside their tent, or that would be somewhere in their campground where they were camping, which identified them as whatever tribe they were in or whatever family they were a part of. It told them who they were identified with and a little bit about the family and who they belonged to. Which is great news for us then if the God that we follow is Jehovah-nissi. If God is our banner, that means that we get to put God's banner above our door. That means that the tribe that we are a part of is God's tribe. We get to be welcomed into his family, and he is our Father that looks after us, that we can run to, and we have this family around us of our brothers and sisters that gets to support us through life as well. So a flag that identifies you as something, as part of a family, when it's God's family, is really great news for us. And it's really cool that our identity then, if God is our banner and waves for us, our identity is in Christ. So as followers of Jesus, we are not defined in and of ourselves alone, but by what God does for us and in us and with us, which is really cool. So this idea that we are part of God's family and his identity is in us means that it's not all on us. We don't get defined by our own actions, which is great, because whatever I do, whatever I get wrong, or whatever I get right, because sometimes that happens as well, whatever we do, that's not the be-all and end-all, because we're not defined by that. We're defined by God. We get to put his banner and his flag above our house, and we get to take that with us. So that's one reason that Moses would have seen and used the word banner to relate to God. So that's one way. And another way is that banners were used in battle. So this whole context that we're looking at is a battle. And much like today and throughout history, flags are used a lot in battles. So the battle in this story wasn't won by the strength of the soldiers. It was, as we heard, won by God's power through Moses' continuous prayer and holding up those arms on the mountaintop, which is incredible. And there's a whole nother story about that and the continuous prayer and God working through that. But let's bring ourselves from the top of the mountain down and put ourselves in the battlefield and think about how that might feel for a minute. You've just come through all of this journey to get to where you are, and you're now moving about, and you're now in a battlefield, and it's chaos, and you've got these people coming at you and attacking you. And at that point, when you've got no idea, who's fighting beside you potentially, a flag would signify a rallying point, a place that you could run to when you needed to regroup, when you needed to find safety in numbers and in your team. So you could be on that battlefield and you could look up from where you are in that moment of battle. You could look up and search for your flag, for your banner, and know that is the rallying point. That is where we can go. And also, there would normally be a trusted leader carrying the flag. So if you're not sure what's going on or where you are or who is fighting for you, and you see someone moving with your banner, with your flag, you know that that's a person that you can trust and you can follow. So that's one aspect that Moses would have been thinking about when he called God his banner. The fact that for us, if we're going through something that is really hard, if we're going through a battle in our life, or maybe it's even just the stress of the everyday feels like it's coming at you and at you and at you, we get to raise our eyes and look for the flag that is God. He is our place of refuge. He is our place where we get to go and regroup. So I wonder who it is you turn to or you look to when you're on that battlefield. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's a family member. It could be friends on social media. It could be books. You might just not look up at all and look down at the ground, bury your head in the sand. There's different ways that all of us cope when we're going through a battle, but when Jehovah-nissi is our God, we can remember that we get to raise our eyes to find the flag where we get to go and regroup, where we get to go and find refuge, where we find safety in numbers, and where we can be carried by a leader that we get to follow, that is going to lead us to safety. So that's another reason behind that name, Jehovah-nissi. So we've got this identity thing, this being part of a family aspect, and then we've also got, it's really cool actually, the name, this banner, it also points towards a victory flag. We know, again, in battle, they would wave their flag when they won, or even, again, at the rugby, when we win, unlike yesterday, you wave your flag, yes, we won, it's a victory flag. The Lord is our banner because Jesus waves the victory flag for us on the cross. And in the book of Isaiah, as a prophet, in chapter 11, verse 10, it says this: "In that day, the root of Jesse will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nations will rally to him, and his resting place will be glorious." Now, this root of Jesse that Isaiah is talking about is Jesus. So Jesus is a descendant of Jesse, comes all down through the line. You got Jesse, you got King David, and all these people. And you got Joseph, who's Jesus' earthly father. So there we go, Jesse, root is the root down to Jesus. And he's saying that Jesus is going to stand as a banner for all of the people. All of the people. Now, it talks about the nations in this specific book, but we know that actually this is looking forward and zooming out to everybody as well. So Jesus is our victory banner because he does what we could never do. You may have heard this phrase before, he dies the death that he died for the sin that he didn't commit for us. And so this banner that gets waved is a banner that is signifying that we get to live free with God, with Jesus in eternity because of what Jesus has done. And that is a victorious flying of a flag that we get to hold on to. Jesus was hung on that tree to save us. And so whilst he was on the tree, the banner that's across him is a somber one and is a sad one and a hard one. When he's raised from the tomb, that flag is a victorious one. And we get to live in the light of that victory today, and we get to take that with us as well. Which is really great for us. We get that flag that we get to hold ourselves. We're part of that family. Our identity is in God. We have our battle point of rallying and regrouping. We have this victory flag. But it goes a step further than just having this banner, just having Jehovah-nissi, our Lord, our flag, for ourselves. It goes a step further than that because we are made not just to know God, but we are made to make God known to other people. So we get that amazing blessing of holding a flag and putting it above our door and saying we're part of God's family, but also we get to hold that flag. We get to wave that flag so that other people can share in the love of God as well. So that other people can know that they are children of God and welcomed into his family. So we can wave that flag to welcome others in, to receive that as well. And perhaps we can be the person who's holding the flag through somebody else's battlefield. You know, I'm sure you've all got people that you can think of that you know might be going through a tricky time. Perhaps you could be the person who's walking around saying, do you know what? The Lord is my banner. I've got this flag of God's love. I've got this flag of God's redemption, of God's comfort. And even if that person doesn't know the Lord, you can take that flag to them so that in their battlefield, they can raise their eyes and they can find God too. So he's there for you. He's there for everyone. He's there for your mates. He's there for your family. And all of that is wrapped up in this Yahweh. I am who I am. I am who I will be forever. And somebody, I can't claim this, one of my friends said this. She said, everyone, I want you to do it with me, okay? So you're gonna take a big deep breath in, and then a big deep breath out as well. Deep breath in. And she says, if you think about it, that sounds a little bit like Yahweh. Yeah, exactly, Yahweh. So whether it's in the day-to-day, you're pouring your cereal, you're feeling great, Yahweh, he is who he is all the time, forever. Or whether it's your head down on a battlefield and it's, Yahweh, you are who you are forever, so come through now. I need to find the banner waving. I need to find you to follow. So that's what I want to leave you with today. We've got, make sure I haven't missed anything that I thought was really good. The Lord is my banner, the one who our identity is in, the family that we belong to. The Lord is my banner, the one we can lift our eyes to when we are under fire, the leader that we can follow through hard times and is our rallying point of safety and regrouping. The Lord is my banner, the one who waves the flag of victory because he was resurrected from death, that he shouldn't have died for the sins he didn't commit. We get to live in the light of that today. And because we remember Yahweh, he is who he is consistently, we get to live alongside him forever.